Was seeing the relationship between cost and ridership of New York City subways since its start in 1901 to present day, and then even predicting future costs and riderships. So at first I thought that there would be like an indirect relationship between cost and ridership. So as the cost went up, ridership would go down because people wouldn't want to pay as much. But instead I saw something quite different. It seemed like the graph for ridership seems like all over the place. While for the cost, I saw like what looked like an exponential curve to me. So I decided not to even pay attention to. Oh.
Sorry, definitely simple.
Not really do as much math for the ridership graph, but instead try to fit an exponential function for the curve of the graph, the cost. And when I did curve fit on Logger Pro, I wasn't able to really get anything that matched. So I decided to make separate piecewise functions for segments of the cost graph. So I looked at between 1904 and 1947, and right there, between those years, the cost was a nickel, and it stayed constant for that amount of time. So I just fit a linear graph to that at y equals 0x plus 0.05, or just y equals 0.05. And then after that, I looked between 1975 and 2014, and I saw another linear graph, so I fit this equation to it. And then I saw an exponential curve. For some reason, right now, all my graphs are actually, I don't know why. But I saw an exponential curve right here between 1947 and 1966. And then finally, I saw what looked like half of a parabola right here between 1966 and 2009. So then I decided to find the derivatives of each of those equations to figure out like the rate of change in cost throughout the years and see when the rate was the highest and when it was the lowest. So obviously the rate was the lowest when it didn't change between 1904 and 1947. So its derivative was 0 because there's absolutely no change. And then the highest rate was between 1975 and 2014, where it had a slope of 0.0556, and then here are my other derivatives that I found. And then I tried to figure out explanations for the reasons why the rates raised so much. And I think that between 1904 and 1947 it didn't change because subway was just starting out, there weren't very many people riding it, so it kind of needs they need to get into it more before they raise the price. And in 2014, present day, they have many new lines and new stations and new cars that are just more expensive, technologically advanced, so they need to pay for that. And then also there's a greater population, so more people are willing to ride the subway now. Yeah, so they can raise the price because we need to ride it. And then I decided to look at ridership and not really fit a curve for that because it was just kind of impossible, but figure out the reasons why it looks the way it does. So if you look here, this is the era of the Great Depression. So less people were going to work, less people were riding places, less people were paying to ride subway. And here is the end of World War II. So you can see just how big, how many people started riding again. And then, for some reason my entire graph's not shown, but here there's just a little dip, and that's where lots of strikes are going on and a lot of lines are closed. And then now, I don't know if you can see it here, but it starts going up a lot and it's approaching numbers that match World War II, the values of post-World War II. So I decided to predict future ridership and cost. So first for cost, I used my this function right here that fit the last part of the graph, and I plugged in 2015 for x, and I got $2.73. But this was kind of a weird oddish number, so obviously the MTA round up to make it about 275, which sounds pretty reasonable to me, based on like, you know, the new Second Avenue line that's being built. They need to pay for this. More people are riding it, so they can raise it if they wanted to, and then it rejoins. I'm sorry that my functions aren't showing up here, but it rejoins the parabolic function that goes up here, because 2015 would be about here, so that means that the rate will only keep increasing. So by 2016, it'll probably be over $3 to ride the subway. And then also for the ridership graph, predicting like future ridership in 2015 and onwards, people think that will probably reach World War II values again and even higher, because like we've set many ridership records this year. Like during the People's Climate March, there was the highest Sunday ridership ever, which was like in the 2 millions, which is super high for a Sunday. And then just in general, we've seen numbers in the 6 millions per day in late September and early October, and it's just rising. So I think that we'll see something like over 2 billion in the later years for ridership in the subway. Yeah. Thank you. Questions?
I'm just looking at that World War II
Yeah, if you want to
slash
see,
post, like 1950s, you had a massive drop.
I don't know, if you want to pass
What
this around, like it didn't really show everything on here for some reason, I don't know why. Your massive drop after World War II.
Yeah, it looks like
yeah.
1948 or something.
Basically, what happened was like a lot of the lines closed and they started connecting more subway lines. So in the World War II era, they were all connected. So when people would ride them, they'd be counted twice if they were to like go to different lines of the subway. So I think that's just kind of like almost like false data with like that high. But like now, and like next year or perhaps even this year, we'll see ridership that matches that for real. So I think that's pretty cool. That just shows like how much this is growing. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Sorry about the graph.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
That was interesting that the blue continued to grow through this
Yeah,
period
it
of years.
grows with, I can explain that.
Yeah.
Like it starts to grow with the cost, because you think like why would people, you know, want to ride the subway more if it's starting to cost so much?
Yeah.
But you think about the cost of owning a car in New York City and parking or taking cabs, it's still less expensive.
Yeah.
So people are riding it out of necessity, not just because like, you know, they're not going to stop riding it because it raises 25 cents more, because that's nothing compared to the cost of having a car. So like they're raising it pretty much just because they can, because we really have no other option.
Do you know if they lose money, make money? Do you know?
For
the
raising
MTA? Yeah, just
price.
is this a profitable thing, or is it more of a
Yeah, I'm
source?
sure. I mean, they're doing it for a reason. I mean, they're growing. Like they're expanding so much. Like I said earlier, they're making a whole new Second Avenue line on the east side of Manhattan. And like that's like what people have been like asking for years, because like before there's only one on the east side on Lexington, which is like really far away if you live farther east. So it's more convenient. So people, I guess, like are willing to also pay for this.
Yeah.
And they need to like fund it somehow and make some sort of revenue. So they need to increase it enough so they'll make money and pay for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then also we have like, you know, all the workers going on strike because they weren't being paid enough. Like that's a huge problem in the past years. Like I remember one year the subway was shut down for 12 days because the workers were on strike because they weren't being paid enough. So like, they need to fix that too.
So this linear function right here, this is the projected cost.
Yeah, okay, so I plugged in my value for, like I plugged in 2015, excuse me, for the x value of the 0.0556 linear equation, and I got a number that matched back up with the parabola. I got like 2.73, so like it kind of like was like that almost, and that like hit the parabola that I had that you can see like on the ground that's being passed around, and that just shows how the rate is increasing. I actually calculated the slope at that point, and it's 0.09, which is much higher than the highest slope that we've had, the highest rate and slope that we've had originally. So like that just shows.
10 cents.
Yeah,
a year.
almost. Yeah. So like, that's pretty insane, and like, recently we've been seeing like, whenever they've been raising the price, they've actually been raising it by like 25 cents each time they're doing it, so like, they're not even like, doing little by little, they're just like, going very quickly, raising it so much, it's ridiculous. Did you have a question?
I was just gonna ask if the subway and the bus are like the same price, right?
Yeah,
So would it happen in the buses too?
yeah, like there's things like, there's like different things, like if you buy like, like an unlimited and just like a weekly pass, like sometimes like you get a discount if you buy like an unlimited, but like usually if you pay per ride, like if you're just to get a metro card and fill it per ride, then yeah, it would be the same price. Or sometimes you see that the price for buses raises like a month after subways. Subways usually go first. I'm not sure why.
Did you talk about why this happened?
Did I talk? Yeah, there I said.
This is like a
Yeah,
this drop from its high to a low in 1960, 70, 80, 1980.
Yeah, I said, like, when I was answering Anne's question earlier, I was talking about how, like, a bunch of the lines closed down, and they're, like, combining more, so, like, this is kind of, like, all, like, one thing, almost. It just, like, took them a while, and they're, like, completely revamping and getting, like, new cars and everything. Yeah, so they're just, like, making a whole, like, more unified thing, but to do that, they had to, like, close down some lines, so, like, lots of people could, like, like, ride when they wanted to. And then there was also lots of strikes for the workers. So it was closed down several times the rest of those years. And another interesting thing that you'll see is like that it keeps on rising, except like around 2001 it kind of, and 2002 it kind of just like levels off a little bit and then goes up. And that's because that's after 9/11 they started to clear out like the rubble and like the concaved stations that were ruined after it, so they need to like shut everything down. And then you can also see like there's like a little bit the price also goes up because they need to pay for all of that. So yeah, I think it's interesting.